Finally, for the first time in a long time, the Orlando Magic have the #1 pick in the 2022 NBA Draft. Will this be the start of a new era in Orlando? Find out on this episode of Magic Monthly. So, as I said in the intro, the Magic have the #1 pick in this 2022 NBA Draft, and that is so exciting. Shout out to the Six Man Show for having that great draft lottery party. I was definitely there, and a lot of other Magic podcasters were there too, and it was a lot of fun being able to celebrate with all those guys and all those Magic fans out there. And it was just a sense of finally, it was this moment that we finally caught a break. You know, even Jeff Weltman said that specifically, that we finally caught a break. And Jamal Mosley must be our really, really good luck charm. He did a fantastic job up there. I know he was just sitting up there, but he always brings great positive energy to the organization. And yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for the Magic to finally pick their guy. I feel like in every draft since we've had this front office, we have always had to settle for what's left and pick the best out of what's left. But now we really do get to pick the guy that we want out of every single person that could be drafted in this draft. And the Magic control the draft. Whoever they choose at #1 or whatever they decide to do with the #1 pick will be really important for what OKC does, Houston, Sacramento, and on throughout the draft. Another great thing is every single time that we have picked the #1 pick in the NBA draft, it has led in a finals appearance. Now, hopefully, this pick doesn't end in a finals appearance, it ends in a finals win. But I think that is a really positive thing. Obviously, the Magic have been able to identify talent for a long time, and this front office is no different. They're really great at evaluating talent. Look what they did with Franz Wagner at the 8th pick last year. He ended up being arguably a top 3 rookie this year. And I think if we had a better record, he would be in the conversation for #1. And he still has a lot of growth left. You can even include Jalen Suggs in that. He fell to us after the projected Toronto Raptors were supposed to pick him at #4, and we got him at #5. And he had a rough rookie season, but he can obviously also still develop into a star. The Magic also get a lot of media exposure out of this. The media has to talk about the Orlando Magic now because we have the #1 pick. And although it might not matter in a team building perspective, it does matter in terms of your reputation around the NBA, your reputation with other players as well that could come in free agency. I think it makes us a lot more relevant with free agents when they are talking about us, when we get such a positive thing like the #1 pick. I think it makes free agents really look at us differently and look at us potentially as a team to go to with a young building core. And that brings me into my free agent targets for the Orlando Magic this summer. Obviously, we have our own 2 free agents that are the most important in Mo Bamba and Gary Harris. We don't know what the Magic are going to do with Mo Bamba, but if they do end up picking a big, which it's looking like in this draft, I don't know. I think Mo's time in Orlando might be finished. I could anticipate a sign and trade to another team. You know, teams looking for a center like Charlotte, maybe Dallas, Portland. If they miss out on DeAndre Ayton, I could see that as a location for him. And Mo, I think he will be a really good player for another team, but there's just not enough space for him in Orlando anymore. We are really stacking up young talent, and I think he would not be super happy coming off the bench playing behind Wendell. I think he needs to go somewhere else and become a starting center in this league. And our other free agent is Gary Harris, who it is curious that the Magic did not trade him at the trade deadline. Maybe they didn't have any offers, but I think that he is a really, really good contributor, that he's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. He's also a really good perimeter defender that can defend 1 through 3. And he's a good locker room presence. He's just like that type of guy that he leads by example. And I think he'd actually be really positive to keep around, in a contract of around $9-10 million a year for 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I would really like Gary Harris on this team. He's not super old. He's 27 years old. So I think he would actually be really positive to keep around, and a really productive player off the bench as well. Now, some other guys that we could look at are guys like Pat Connaughton from the Milwaukee Bucks. We need shooting, and he's a great off the ball shooter, and he's really good at coming off of screens, and he's a really good competitor defensively as well, with championship experience, by the way, which we would definitely value on this team. Bruce Brown is another guy, 3-and-D guy. Can actually play a lot bigger than he actually is, which I think is a really positive thing for us. Gary Payton II, who went out with a season-ending injury in the second round versus Memphis for Golden State. And I think he would be another guy. Golden State can't keep all of these guys, so I think he'd be another guy to swoop in and really steal him away from the Golden State Warriors. A lot like the Jonathan Simmons pickup a couple years ago from the Spurs after he had such a great season with them. Cody and Caleb Martin, one plays in Charlotte and the other plays in Miami. They're almost identical players. Cody's a little bit more of a ball handler. I think they would be really good 3-and-D wings on the perimeter as well. Amir Coffey, who had a breakout season for the Clippers, is a restricted free agent. Who knows if they can keep him around? He's a good shooter and a decent playmaker as well. I think that'd be a good guy to have off the bench. Victor Oladipo, who's had a resurgence in these playoffs with the Miami Heat. Could the Magic look for a reunion with him? I think he'd be a really good addition as a slasher, as a good veteran presence as well. He already knows the city. He's a decent shooter. He's been shooting it really well in the playoffs. Another guy that can really score the ball off the bench. I think he would be a really good addition to the team. 2 more guys are Joe Ingles and Jordan Nwora. Joe Ingles obviously had a season-ending injury last season, but the Magic were interested in him a couple seasons ago before he signed that 3-year deal with the Utah Jazz. I think it would be a pretty good addition considering he has a lot of playoff experience, and he's a good guy that can really keep the ball moving on the perimeter, which you really need those type of guys that are just not ball stoppers. And I think he would really embrace this young team. And Jordan Nwora is just a young 3-and-D shooter from Milwaukee who was getting a lot of playing time in the regular season, but when the playoffs came around, he wasn't really in the rotation. I think he would be a decent guy to take a flyer on as well. And now moving on to a bigger theoretical free agent target, Zach LaVine. He is the best free agent on the market this offseason, and I think it would be really interesting for the Magic to at least pursue him. Who knows? Maybe he's just looking for a large contract, and he looks at the situation in Orlando with all the young pieces and all of the young veterans like Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter, as well as Jonathan Isaac. And maybe he sees that and he's like, this is a team that I could lead right now and that could potentially grow with me in the next 2 years into a contender in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the East has been wide open, and I think the Magic do have a shot if they could get a guy like that to become a contender pretty quickly in the next couple years, especially if they hit on this #1 pick. And it would just be really interesting. The Magic haven't had a guy that is a 3-level scorer that can get his own shot towards the end of the games with a good enough handle to get around guys in a long time. Obviously, the last time we had a guy like that was Tracy McGrady, and it would just be super exciting if the Magic were able to do that. It would almost be a dream offseason to get the #1 pick and then get an all-star level player in free agency to add to this young core. I think it would be not that unrealistic for the Magic to be able to pry LaVine away from Chicago. Obviously, he is going to have options that he's going to look at more realistically, but it wouldn't be that out of the blue of a move for him to do. I could definitely see it happening. And finally, we're going to speak a little bit on Jonathan Isaac's role with this team. Obviously, there have been a lot of questions about, is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? Do the Magic trade him? He obviously has a lot of injury concerns as well. But if Isaac is healthy next season and at least comes back as the defender that he has been and that he was developing into, an all-NBA defender, defensive player of the year type of player, I do see him being able to start for this team potentially in the front court if the Magic go with a big lineup. I was actually talking with the guys of Orlando Magic HQ, shout out to them. I was talking with them about this, and I had suggested maybe starting Franz Wagner at the 2-guard spot because of his ability to create shots for others and for himself. He definitely needs to tighten up that handle, but I think he'll be working a lot on that in the offseason. And I think he would really make a good backcourt partner for Markelle Fultz. And we've seen a lot of success from taller guys playing the 2-guard position in the NBA. You can look at guys like Paul George, even a former Magic guy like Hito Turkoglu. He used to play the shooting guard position early in his career, and he had a lot of success with it. Gordon Hayward, early in his career as well, had a lot of success playing that 2-guard spot, being 6'10". And I just think that at the end of the day, you have to go with a Toronto type of mentality where you just put your 5 best guys out on the floor, no matter what the position is. And I think it could be a realistic possibility. And if not that, I actually really see Isaac as a valuable piece to this team. I don't think he would necessarily be a guy that you would want to trade, considering his defensive potential, and not even potential, he was already showing how good of a defender he was. And I think he could be a lot like a Andre Iguodala on those Golden State Warriors title teams. Remember, Iggy could have started. I mean, he was an all-star like 2 years before he got to Golden State. He could have easily started on that team, but they saw more value in bringing him off the bench, playing him less minutes, keeping him ready for the playoffs throughout the entire season. I could very easily see Isaac playing 23 to 25 minutes a game off the bench this season, and he would, no question, be in the game in crunch time to guard the best player on the other team. Another guy like that in recent years has been Marcus Smart. Of course, he's starting now, but in the past, he was coming off the bench. And I think that it's a role that you have to have the personality. You have to let go of that ego to really embrace that role. And I think Jonathan Isaac is a really selfless guy in his personality, and I think he would do what is best for the team. And if that is coming off the bench as a 6-man defensive player of the year type of candidate, I think that would be a great role for the Magic. Honestly, I don't see a problem with that. And you always need those glue guys in the playoffs to really get you to the end and competitive all the way until the end. So my question to you guys this week: what free agents should the Orlando Magic pursue in this 2022 NBA offseason? I'm really curious to hear what you guys have. Obviously, I had my ideas. Tell me what you think about them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring that notifications bell. It really helps the channel get through the algorithm in YouTube and let all of these other basketball fans see it. And guys, most importantly, have a great rest of your day.